friends. Well, here we are again. This is kind of like a continuation of the theme of the 3-day work week idea that I talked about on my last video, but a little bit different. Asking, is van life better? Is van life better than a traditional life? It can be, and personally I think it is. And in some ways, well, there's lots of things to talk about here. Let's start at the beginning. Last week I was, my friend Chuck and Wayne, we went out to a pub, and they had some beer. I don't drink, so I just had, I think I actually ordered some food, at a veggie burger and water, whatever. And anyway, so that was a nice evening and everything, but I was not impressed with the service. Towards the end of the night, I was ready to go, and I'd actually timed how long it was taking them to come back to the table so I could pay for my dinner. And it had been literally 15 or 20 minutes. I was getting frustrated. And I thought, what are these waitresses doing? They're just like frustrating me like crazy. So I ended up like literally going to the waitress, finding her in the pub, and saying, I would like to pay now, please. And I was not impressed. But upon reflection later that night and the next day, I realized, man, that is a hard job. Especially in a pub, you get all of these guys, you're making these lewd comments, and you're on your feet, you're dealing with people all the time, and a lot of people can be quite rude to servers, and in the customer service industry, you got to deal with people, and they can be rude. Anybody who's dealt with people on a regular basis, where you serve the customer, sometimes the customer thinks that they have a right to be rude because they're paying for something that you're offering. Anyway, it's a really tough job, and I thought, man, they probably work like 40 hours a week on their feet all day in an environment like that. I thought that cannot be fun. And then I reflected about how van life enables somebody to work less. Now, I'm in a particular situation where I have a good education and I make pretty good money, and so I'm able to do things like save for buy a new van next year, when I'm hopefully going to pay for most of it in cash, maybe all of it, I don't know yet. So far so good. But you don't have to, and I eat out a lot, and I watch my money, but in some ways, if I want to buy something, I buy it. For instance, this hat. This is my brand new hat. I'll be wearing this probably till next November when it's toque season again. But this was like a $38 hat, and as like I could have bought a $21 hat, but I don't want to buy junk. I like to buy good quality stuff, especially if I'm going to wear it basically every day. Spend the money and get a better hat. Spend the extra 20 bucks or whatever and get a nicer hat. I'm in a position where I can afford to do that. And the thing is, I like a quality thing. Now, the problem is, of course, if you can see, I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's a square on here that said a name brand, Hurley. And see, I don't wear logos. I don't wear corporate. It doesn't say Coca-Cola across the front of my shirt or whatever, Ford or Chevy or whatever. I don't advertise for corporations. Just kind of on my mindset about, I don't see the point. Why would I advertise for corporations? Maybe it's supposed to make me look cooler. I don't think it's cool to advertise for corporations. Some people do, and if that's your thing, party on, if that's what you want to do, but it's not for me. So what I did was I actually painted this square over two coats, and now you can't see it. So I got a good quality hat with no logo. which is what I want. Now, I could have spent more time and effort to find one that didn't have a logo in the first place, but I couldn't find one. So I'm only going to spend like weeks looking for a silly hat. So I just thought, I'll just paint it and see how it does. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say there is that I can afford to spend money that maybe other people that are living in a van can't. So you don't have to spend money more on the frivolous level. Living in a van means you can basically work minimum wage jobs. And if you are not happy with your boss, he's being a jerk, and you're making minimum wage, and like in Vancouver, there's tons of minimum wage jobs because you know, these coffee shops or whatever, they don't want to pay, you know, $20 an hour, so they're paying minimum wage. But the problem is the rent is so expensive that nobody can afford to make minimum wage. So they're either working 2 or 3 minimum wage jobs, or they're not working them. I mean, why would you work at like a coffee shop in a fancy part of town and pay fancy rent when you can live like 30 kilometers out away from the city and still work in a coffee shop, still make minimum wage, but pay way less rent? So they're having a hard time filling these jobs, and a lot of restaurants and stuff actually are either the owner has to work the hours to keep it open, otherwise they have to reduce the hours that they're open, and it's a big problem in a city like ours. But suffice it to say, you can work minimum wage and you can live in a van and you can do pretty well, and you couldn't do that paying rent. So in that sense, and if you can work 3 days a week and you really know how to kind of be careful with your money, you can have a better life. So working 3 days is possible, and van life enables that. So you could work less and be happy even on minimum wage. Now, if you're minimum wage, it's going to be tougher to pay the bills. You still have to buy food, and you still have to pay for gas and car insurance and cell phone. You don't have to eat out as much as I do. You could buy food and make it in the van and save money that way. There's definitely ways to do it for cheaper, even if you're working minimum wage. So my point is that life can be better if you work less. And the dream that we're sold, that you have to be a hard worker and you have to, like, you know, work 40 hours a week because who you are is identified with what job you do, I think that's a load. That is not true. If you're flipping burgers at a fast food joint, is that who you are? No. You can do other things. You could flip burgers part-time, but you could work at an animal shelter, or for like as in the volunteer sense. You could work with special needs kids or whatever. I saw this thing on Craigslist about volunteering with autistic kids and with horses. And I love animals. Horses that would be fun. I don't have any experience with horses, but you could do those kinds of things and still have meaning in your life without identifying it with your job. For me, passion gives meaning to life. So for me, it's music, and that's why I'm playing in a band, and I enjoy the heck out of it. And I will always do it as long as I can possibly get away with it. So you don't have to identify your job as who you are. And van life is the vehicle to make that happen. So yes, van life is better. Even though there's, you know, all the small things you could contend with, like getting water, and your electricity needs are have to be really curtailed and, you know, budgeted, so that you know that you can't just use power endlessly. You have to watch it. So if you can live van life and deal with those inconveniences, life is better. Van life is better because you are in control of most of your time instead of being at a mick job and just spending your money on something that's like rent. I mean, what's the point? You got a place to lay your head and you're warm and you can adjust your reality to say, I don't have to use all this electricity to be happy. I can live, literally, I've lived for 6 months at a time off my starter battery. All I need is my phone and a light. Charge my phone is literally 4 or 5 watts, and a light is like, my Luna light is less than a watt of power. It's all you really need for electricity. Heat is with gas, cooking is with gas. What else do you need electricity for? Now in the summer you want a fan and stuff like that, so here we go with all that. But my point is, it can be done, and life can be better. Thanks for watching, guys, and be well, my friends.